Imagine sailing across the Atlantic when suddenly every person around you is gone. No screams, no struggle, just silence. December 4th, 1872. A ghost ship drifts aimlessly across the ocean, its sails billowing in the wind, its cargo untouched, its deck eerily silent. The Mary Celeste should have been bustling with life, but instead it is empty. What would make an entire crew disappear? Today, we dive into one of the strangest maritime mysteries of all time. This isn't just a legend, it's an unsolved case with no answers, even today. The ship's log speaks of calm waters and steady winds. Everything was normal. And yet, something happened. Something so sudden, so unexplainable, that every soul on board vanished into the unknown. 150 years later, we still have no good answers. But what if we've been looking in the wrong place? The sea has kept its secrets well, but could the ship's own log hold the key? Step by step, entry by entry, we'll follow its final journey and uncover the fate of those who vanished. What if the answer to this mystery has been hiding in plain sight all along? Tonight, we will talk about the clues left behind, the theories, the lesser-known facts, the suspicious salvage investigation, and the ship's cursed fate. Because sometimes, history is darker than fiction. Let us begin. The fateful voyage begins. Log entry, November 7th, 1872. At 8 a.m., we set sail from New York Harbor bound for Genoa. Weather is clear, winds favorable, crew in good spirits, cargo secure, course set eastward. The Mary Celeste was no fragile vessel. She was built to conquer the sea, her wooden frame sturdy, her sails strong. Laden with 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, she was bound for Genoa, her course steady, her fate seemingly certain. At her helm was Captain Benjamin Briggs, a man of unwavering discipline and quiet resolve. The crew entrusted their lives to him, just as the ship's owner had entrusted its cargo. But Briggs carried more than barrels and orders. His wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, sailed alongside him. It was a rare choice for a captain, bringing his family into the unpredictable heart of the Atlantic. Perhaps he saw this as a final adventure before settling down, a promise of a new chapter once they reached their destination. But destiny had other plans. The Mary Celeste would reach her destination without them. Log entry, November 10th, 1872. Winds remain steady. Crew working efficiently. Rations accounted for. Course maintained. Day after day, the Mary Celeste pressed eastward. Briggs' hand-picked crew worked efficiently. The voyage was smooth. No signs of the horror to come. And yet, there is something chilling about these entries. How ordinary they seem, how devoid of any warning. If there were whispers of unease among the men, they were never written down. If Captain Briggs felt any hesitation, he did not let it show. Log entry, November 15th, 1872. Spotted another vessel on the horizon. Passed without incident. No changes to course or weather. A routine sighting. But this would be one of the last recorded moments of the Mary Celeste encountering another soul at sea. Unaware that they were witnessing a vessel on the edge of oblivion. Log entry, November 24th, 1872. Near Azores Islands. Conditions favorable, no concerns, all is well. This was the last full day before the final entry in the log. No concerns, all is well. The Mary Celeste was just miles, a crucial waypoint in its journey. If danger lurked ahead, the pages held no warning. But if everything was fine, why was this the last time anyone saw the Mary Celeste's crew alive? The next log entry would be the last. After that, the Mary Celeste sailed on, empty, abandoned, and forever unanswered. The last entry. Log entry, November 25th, 1872. Past the island of St. Mary, saw land in the distance. All is well. A few lines in the ship's log, nothing more. Just an entry frozen in time. The maritime mystery of the Mary Celeste had only just begun. Those words sit on the page like an unfinished sentence. A message frozen in time, carrying no sign of the disaster to come. All is well. A phrase that now feels hollow, haunting. A quiet prelude to an unspeakable void. The ship's position was logged at just off the Azores Islands. The weather was calm, the wind steady. By all accounts, the journey was proceeding without incident. There was no distress signal, no cryptic warning, no suggestion of fear. But something changed after this moment. The logbook, so methodically maintained, each entry a reflection of a captain in control of his vessel, goes silent. The pen is set down, the ink dries, and then nothing. The following days exist in a void, a blank space in history. Somewhere between this last entry and December 4th, when the Mary Celeste was found adrift, the crew disappeared. Did Briggs write more in those missing pages, only for them to vanish before reaching Gibraltar? Were they torn away, cast into the sea, or did they never exist at all? In the end, the silence itself speaks volumes, a final record, not of words, but of absence. With its sails full and its helm unmanned, the Mary Celeste drifted onward, a ghost ship bound for an uncertain fate. The disappearance of the crew ranks among the most mysterious disappearances in history. An event that defies logical explanation even today. What do you think happened aboard the Mary Celeste? Drop your theory in the comments below, and let's see which explanation holds the most weight. December 4th, 1872. A ghost ship adrift. The sea was calm that morning, the waves rolling gently beneath a pale winter sky. The brigantine Dei Gratia, en route to Gibraltar, had been sailing steadily when her crew spotted something unusual on the horizon. A ship, its sails partially unfurled, moving listlessly with the wind. At first glance, it seemed as though she was simply off course, perhaps struggling with damaged rigging. But as they drew closer, something felt wrong. The vessel made no attempt to correct her course. No signal flags were raised. No crew appeared on deck. The ship simply drifted, silent and lifeless. Captain David Morehouse, an experienced mariner, recognized the ship immediately. Morehouse knew her captain, Benjamin Briggs, personally. The two had dined together before their voyages. Briggs was a meticulous sailor, not the kind of man to let his ship drift unattended. Morehouse ordered a boarding party to investigate. As they rowed toward the abandoned vessel, the silence became suffocating. No voices called out. No movement came from within the cabins. The only sound was the eerie creaking of timber as the waves rocked the ship. The men climbed aboard. No struggle, no wreckage, no bodies. The cargo sat untouched. Personal belongings lay exactly where they had been left. as if the crew had vanished into thin air. Half-eaten meals rotted on the mess table. The ship's log lay open in the captain's cabin. The last entry, November 25th. Then, nothing. Small detail. The lifeboat was missing. A length of rope trailed over the side of the ship, its end frayed and floating in the water, as though it had once been tied to something, and then severed. But where was the crew? There was no blood, no signs of a fight, no indication of foul play. The ship had been abandoned deliberately. But why? And where had they gone? The Mary Celeste was seaworthy. There had been no storm, no fire, no visible damage to explain why an entire crew would willingly leave their vessel. The only thing missing, aside from the people, was 9 barrels of alcohol from the cargo hold. The men of the Dei Gratia searched every corner of the ship, hoping for some answer, some clue to the fate of Captain Briggs and his family. But there was nothing. Just silence. The Mary Celeste had become something else now. A vessel no longer belonging to the living. A ghost ship, adrift in the Atlantic, carrying only questions. But the silence wasn't the only thing haunting this ship. There were clues hidden in plain sight that made this mystery even stranger. What else did the Dei Gratia crew uncover? Let's now delve deeper into the findings on board. If you love dark history, unsolved mysteries, and tales from the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe. There are countless stories like the Mary Celeste, lost to time, shrouded in speculation and waiting to be uncovered. Because, as dark as fiction can be, history is often far darker. Clues and cryptic findings inside the abandoned ship. As the crew searched deeper, subtle but disturbing details emerged. Clues that hinted at a mystery far stranger than a mere evacuation. The ship's pump, essential for removing water from the bilge, was partially disassembled. A strange discovery, as there was no record of a malfunction, and there was no indication of flooding. Had someone been trying to fix it in a hurry? Or did the crew believe the ship was taking on water when it wasn't? Even stranger, the ship's compass was found shattered, the glass broken. A damaged compass could have led to navigational errors. But there was no sign of erratic course changes in the ship's last recorded position. Had it been broken deliberately? The ship's clock and sextant, crucial for navigation, were missing. These instruments would have been vital if the crew had left the ship in the lifeboat. Did they take them, believing they would return soon? Or had someone removed them before the Dei Gratia arrived? One of the most unsettling discoveries was made in the lower deck near the cargo hold. The barrels of alcohol were intact, except for 9, which were inexplicably empty. But there were no signs of leakage, no strong scent of alcohol in the air. Had they been drained deliberately? If so, by whom? And why? Then there was the firewood. A small pile had been collected near the galley, as if someone had been preparing to cook. But the wood was bone dry, untouched by flame. Had they been interrupted before they could light the fire? The absence of panic was just as unnerving as the ship's emptiness. There were no hastily packed bags, no signs of rushed departure. The Mary Celeste had not been abandoned in chaos. She had been left behind in silence, as if everyone simply disappeared. Every answer led to more questions. The Dei Gratia's men had hoped to find an explanation. Instead, they found only a ship frozen in time, its final moments lost to the sea. Why was the Mary Celeste found abandoned at sea? What could have caused this eerie vanishing? Could the answers to this mystery be buried in the ship's remains? Or were they lost at sea, along with its vanished crew? Now, we turn to the theories, each offering a possible explanation. Were they credible, or did they only deepen the mystery? Let's analyze them one by one. Did pirates attack the Mary Celeste? Pirates were a menace on the high seas. Even in 1872, the Atlantic shipping routes were not immune to raiders seeking valuable cargo, and a merchant vessel like the Mary Celeste, carrying industrial alcohol, could have been a tempting target. If pirates had boarded the ship, could they have seized the crew, taken what they wanted, and left the vessel adrift? Did pirates attack the Mary Celeste, or was it something else? A pirate attack seemed plausible at first, but clues quickly ruled it out. There were no signs of violence, no damage, no forced compartments. The crew's valuables, food, and most of the cargo remained untouched. Pirates rarely leave without taking everything. Strangely, only 9 barrels of industrial alcohol were empty. And if pirates had seized the ship, why abandon it in good condition? Sails partially set, rather than sail it away. The Mary Celeste wasn't plundered. It was simply empty. Also, there was no record of pirate activity in the area at the time. While the Caribbean had its fair share of rogue vessels, the mid-Atlantic near the Azores was not a known hotspot for piracy in the 1870s. But was it truly pirates? Or something far stranger? The pirate theory, like so many others, left more questions than answers. Something had driven the crew from the ship, but it hadn't been the work of raiders with cutlasses and pistols. The mystery remained. So, if it wasn't pirates, then what made the crew abandon ship so suddenly? Could the real danger have come from within? Mutiny, madness, or malice? If pirates didn't take the Mary Celeste's crew, could the danger have come from within? History is filled with tales of mutiny. Could a breakdown in discipline, a violent confrontation, or even insanity have led to the disappearance of Captain Briggs and his crew? At first, mutiny seems like a viable theory. If the crew had risen up, forcing Briggs and his family off the ship or taking control, they might have abandoned it themselves or attempted to cover their actions. But this theory quickly falls apart under closer examination. Briggs was known as a fair and respected leader, not a tyrant. His crew was carefully selected, experienced, and well-regarded. There had been no reports of tensions, no complaints before departure. If a mutiny had occurred, there would likely have been signs of violence or struggle, but none were found. Some believe the crew drank toxic industrial alcohol, went mad, and turned on each other, but there were no signs of chaos. Others suggest a crew member snapped, forcing the rest overboard, yet the ship was left untouched. A chilling theory points to Captain Briggs, who may have panicked over the ship's stability or feared alcohol fumes, ordering an evacuation. If they intended to return, why didn't they? If the crew truly left willingly, then the biggest mystery remains. Why did they never return? The lifeboat was missing, the rope cut or frayed, suggesting it had once been tethered to the ship. Did they drift too far? Were they lost to the sea before they could come back? Whatever happened, it was sudden, decisive, and final. There were no survivors, no messages, no wreckage of a lifeboat ever found. The Mary Celeste ship remained behind, perfectly sailworthy, a ghost ship, abandoned by its people, but never by its mystery. What did they see, hear, or believe was coming for them? Was it fear of something explainable, or something beyond human understanding? Let's now discover the natural and the supernatural angle of this mystery. Could natural disaster or the supernatural be to blame? With no signs of violence, no trace of mutiny, and no clear reason for the crew's disappearance, some have turned to nature and even the supernatural to explain the fate of the Mary Celeste. Could an unseen force of the ocean, or something beyond human understanding, have driven the crew to abandon ship? A rogue wave, a waterspout. One of the most plausible natural explanations is the possibility of a rogue wave. A sudden, towering wall of water capable of slamming into a ship without warning. In a moment of panic, the crew might have boarded the lifeboat, expecting to return once the danger passed, only to be swept away by the relentless sea. Similarly, a waterspout, a tornado-like column of water, could have descended upon the ship, creating a terrifying and confusing scene. If the crew feared that the ship was about to be pulled under, they may have fled. But a rogue wave strong enough to scare the crew into abandoning ship should have left more damage. Broken railings, shattered glass, or at least disarray on deck. Instead, everything was eerily undisturbed. If you're still here, that means you love dark history. Subscribe for more mysteries that history has never solved. Check out our Dark History playlist for more chilling tales from the past. Toxic fumes from the cargo. A more scientific explanation centers around the ship's cargo of industrial alcohol. Some researchers believe that fumes from the barrels could have built up in the hold, creating a fear of an impending explosion. If Briggs and his crew suspected a fire or a toxic leak, they may have temporarily evacuated into the lifeboat, tethering it to the ship until the danger subsided. But if the rope came undone or broke, they would have been left stranded at sea, while the Mary Celeste drifted away. This theory explains why the ship was in pristine condition, with no sign of struggle, but it has its flaws. The Dei Gratia crew reported no strong smell of alcohol when they boarded the vessel, and the barrels that were empty showed no evidence of leakage or damage. Could the crew have imagined the danger? Or did something else force them overboard? For those who refuse to believe this was just a freak accident, there's another theory, one that will send chills down your spine. A paranormal or supernatural force. For those who refuse to believe that a natural explanation could account for such a bizarre and eerie case, the legend of the Mary Celeste has taken on a supernatural life of its own. Some have whispered that the ship crossed paths with an unseen force, a curse, a vengeful spirit, or even something akin to the Bermuda Triangle. Though the ship was nowhere near that infamous stretch of ocean, stories persist of places where sailors vanish without a trace, where ships become empty vessels, doomed to drift for eternity. Could the crew have fallen victim to an unexplainable force, one that left the Mary Celeste untouched, yet stole its people away? Sailors throughout history have told tales of ships encountering ghostly figures, of hearing strange whispers in the wind, of feeling an unseen presence on board. There is no evidence to support these claims, but the idea of a phantom force, claiming the crew has captured imaginations for over a century. The Mary Celeste is now regarded as one of the most famous ghost ships in history. Its story a chilling reminder that some mysteries refuse to be solved. Whether it was a freak oceanic event, a chemical reaction, or something beyond explanation, the fate of the Mary Celeste remains one of the strangest disappearances in maritime history. Every theory has its flaws, and every explanation leads only to more questions. But one thing is certain. Whatever happened in those silent, empty waters of the Atlantic, the Mary Celeste would sail on, untouched by time, its mystery still drifting through history. December 13th, 1872. The Mary Celeste reaches Gibraltar. 9 days after the Mary Celeste was discovered, drifting aimlessly in the Atlantic, the Dei Gratia crew brought the abandoned vessel into the port of Gibraltar. The sight of the ship, eerily intact but utterly devoid of life, sparked immediate curiosity, fear, and suspicion. The moment it arrived, the legend of the Mary Celeste truly began. As soon as the ship was secured, British authorities launched an official inquest into its discovery. Maritime law dictated that salvagers could claim a significant portion of a vessel's value if they successfully brought it to port. However, Captain Morehouse and his men soon found themselves under intense scrutiny. As investigators dug deeper, a chilling suspicion took hold. Could the Dei Gratia crew have known more than they claimed? The Admiralty Court in Gibraltar was very skeptical. How could an experienced crew like that of the Mary Celeste have disappeared so completely, leaving behind a seaworthy vessel? Could the Dei Gratia's crew have staged the abandonment in an attempt to fraudulently claim the ship and its valuable cargo? Investigators scoured the Mary Celeste for foul play, but found no blood, weapons, or signs of struggle, only minor water damage and torn sails. Despite this, suspicions lingered. The Dei Gratia crew faced repeated questioning, accused of staging the mystery for profit. Yet, after weeks of inquiry, no evidence emerged. The court ruled the ship was abandoned, awarding a reduced salvage payment, proof that doubts remained. With the case closed, the Mary Celeste was released back into commercial service, but its reputation was forever tarnished. The ship that had sailed into Gibraltar a mystery would never escape its past. Even as it returned to the sea, the unanswered questions remained. Why had the crew left? What had they feared? And why had they never been found? In the years that followed, sailors would speak of the Mary Celeste in hushed tones, calling it cursed, a ship marked by fate. Its mystery had not ended in Gibraltar. It had only just begun. The final voyage, the Mary Celeste's tragic end. For 13 years after its discovery in 1872, the Mary Celeste continued to sail under new ownership, but its name was forever cursed. Though it was a sturdy, seaworthy vessel, no captain who took command of it could escape its shadowy past. The ship struggled to find success, passing from one owner to another, each hoping to outrun the superstition that followed it. By 1885, the Mary Celeste had become a burden to its final captain, Gilman C. Parker. The ship was no longer profitable, and Parker, deep in debt, devised a desperate plan, one that would not only bring about the ship's final voyage, but would add yet another chapter to its already infamous history. Parker, along with a small crew, set sail from Boston to Haiti, supposedly carrying a cargo of rubber and raw goods. But the voyage was never meant to reach its destination. The true purpose of the journey was fraud. Parker had overinsured the cargo, planning to deliberately wreck the Mary Celeste and then claim the loss. On January 3rd, 1885, Parker ran the ship aground on the Rocheleau Reef off the coast of Haiti. The Mary Celeste was abandoned once again. This time, not by vanishing sailors, but by men who knew exactly what they were doing. They had hoped for a quick payout from the insurance claim, believing no one would question the loss of a ship already infamous for mystery. But this time, the ship's curse seemed to take its revenge. Authorities quickly saw through the deception. The cargo had been deliberately undervalued in shipping records, and the circumstances of the wreck were suspicious. An investigation was launched, and Parker was charged with insurance fraud. Though he avoided prison, his reputation was ruined, and he died shortly afterward in disgrace. The Mary Celeste, however, would never sail again. The ship that had once been found drifting alone in the Atlantic, carrying only questions, had met an undignified, deliberate demise. Not from nature, not from mutiny or disaster, but from the greed of men. Though its hull was shattered on the reefs of Haiti, the legend of the Mary Celeste refused to die. In taverns and ports, sailors still spoke of it in hushed tones. Some claimed that the ship had been cursed from the beginning, that it had never truly belonged to the living. Even today, the wreckage of the Mary Celeste remains lost beneath the waves, its final resting place as elusive as the truth behind its greatest mystery. A ship that began as just another merchant vessel had become something else entirely, a ghost ship forever drifting through history. Lesser-known facts. What most people don't know about the Mary Celeste. The Mary Celeste has captivated historians, sailors, and mystery enthusiasts for over 150 years. Yet its story is often reduced to a few well-known details. However, beyond the commonly told tale of its abandoned voyage, there are strange, overlooked facts that add further intrigue to its legacy. The ship had a troubled past before its infamous voyage. Before it became the Mary Celeste, the ship was originally named Amazon, and from the start it was plagued with misfortune. Its first captain died mysteriously during its maiden voyage, and over the years, the ship suffered multiple accidents and near disasters. It collided with other ships, caught fire, and was even abandoned once before its famous disappearance. After these early troubles, the ship was sold, renamed Mary Celeste, and given a second chance. But its fate had already been sealed. The captain's final letter showed no signs of concern. Before setting sail, Captain Benjamin Briggs wrote a letter to his mother, reassuring her that the journey was going smoothly and that his wife and daughter were well. He made no mention of any concerns about the ship, crew, or cargo. This contradicts later theories that suggest he might have suspected trouble brewing on board. If something was wrong, he either didn't see it or didn't want to alarm his family. The missing barrels might hold a key to the mystery. 9 of the 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol were found empty when the ship was discovered. Some researchers believe these barrels were made of red oak instead of white oak, meaning they could have leaked vapors that built up in the cargo hold. If the crew had smelled the strong fumes and feared an imminent explosion, they may have abandoned ship temporarily, only to be lost at sea when their lifeboat was separated. The ship's log wasn't completely destroyed, but it revealed little. Although many assumed the logbook was lost or had missing pages, the last entry was intact and revealed no distress. The final recorded coordinates placed the Mary Celeste near the Azores Islands, and the captain simply noted their position and weather conditions. If there were any sudden developments, they were either never recorded or erased from history. There were reports of bloodstains, but they were never confirmed. One of the more chilling early accounts suggested that the boarding party from the Dei Grazia found unusual stains and a sword covered in what looked like dried blood. However, later examinations found no proof of foul play, and some dismissed the story as sensationalism. Whether this was an exaggeration or a cover-up remains unknown. The wreck of the Mary Celeste has never been found. After its doomed insurance scam in 1885, the ship was wrecked off the coast of Haiti. However, despite efforts by maritime historians and treasure hunters, the exact remains of the Mary Celeste have never been located. Some claim the wreck was scavenged for wood and completely destroyed, while others believe pieces of it still rest beneath the waves. Some sailors claimed the Mary Celeste was cursed. After its discovery, the Mary Celeste developed a fearsome reputation among sailors. Some refused to board it, believing it was a ship doomed by fate. Some sailors believed the Mary Celeste was cursed, one of many haunted ships in history that carried an eerie reputation long after their final voyage. Its repeated misfortunes and eerie final voyage only fueled the idea that the ship was haunted or cursed. Even after it was destroyed in 1885, stories of ghostly sightings and bad luck followed its name. The ship's story has been twisted over time. The Mary Celeste has inspired countless books, movies, and supernatural tales, but not all of them stick to the facts. One of the most famous fabrications came from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, who wrote a fictionalized account in 1884 that added ghostly elements and a mutiny. Many of these ideas became embedded in the public imagination, despite having no basis in reality. The Mary Celeste remains one of the most enduring maritime mysteries in history. Among the famous ghost ships in history, few have captured the imagination like the Mary Celeste. While many theories exist, none provide a definitive answer. Every small clue, every missing detail, and every strange twist only adds to its legend. Even now, more than a century and a half later, the ship still sails. Not on the water, but through history, forever drifting between fact and myth. The unsolved mystery of the Sea Phantom. Despite endless investigations, the unsolved mystery of the Mary Celeste still leaves historians and maritime experts searching for answers. There was no sign of struggle, no distress signal, and no definitive evidence pointing to mutiny, piracy, or natural disaster. The ship was abandoned under seemingly calm conditions, its last log entry revealing nothing out of the ordinary. Whatever happened, it occurred suddenly, decisively, and without leaving a trace. Theories will continue to circulate, some rational, some fantastical. Perhaps a rogue wave took the crew by surprise. Perhaps a misjudged evacuation led to an unintended separation from the ship. Or maybe the Mary Celeste crossed into something unexplainable, a mystery that exists beyond our understanding. The ship itself met a dishonorable end, deliberately wrecked for an insurance scam in 1885, its remains lost to the sea. But the story of the Mary Celeste refuses to fade. Its name is now synonymous with maritime mysteries, and its legend has only grown with time. Throughout history, Real-life ghost ship stories have fascinated and terrified sailors. Even today, they speak of phantom ships, vessels seen drifting aimlessly on the horizon, appearing and disappearing like mirages. Some claim that, in the right conditions, the Mary Celeste can still be seen, sailing silently across the waves, forever searching for the crew that vanished into the unknown. The sea does not give up its secrets easily, and the mystery of the Mary Celeste ship remains one of its greatest. The ghost ship that was never truly lost, only left behind, a riddle forever adrift in the vast, endless ocean. Despite modern analysis and centuries of speculation, no theory fully explains what happened that day. Was it human error, a miscalculation, or a phenomenon still beyond our understanding? What do you think is the most likely explanation? Drop your theory in the comments below. Let's see which one holds the most weight. If the Mary Celeste left you curious, there's another mystery that's just as puzzling, one that unfolded far from the sea, deep in the snowy wilderness of Soviet Russia. In 1959, a group of experienced hikers set out into the Ural Mountains and never returned. What investigators found sparked decades of debate, a camp left in disarray, and a series of unexplained events that still defy easy explanation. Known today as the Dyatlov Pass incident, it remains one of the most talked about unsolved cases in modern history. If you're ready for another deep dive into the unknown, join me in the next video. If this story left you with chills or questions that won't let go, hit like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss what's coming next. There are so many forgotten corners of history still waiting to be uncovered. Check out our Dark History playlist for more haunting tales, each one stranger than the last. Thank you for spending your time with me tonight. Sleep well, if you can. Until next time.